Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, George. Thank you for being here at the Reveal Report on a Monday. Had a few weeks off, and it was great. We dealt with the storm the first week. Second week, been doing a lot of things. So 2 weeks off. Thank you again for all the love and patience. And we're going to have a great show coming up in a few moments as we discuss underground tunnels, underground cities, past and present. It's going to be quite an interesting conversation with our special guest and author, Mr. Gary Wayne. Going to be joined by Jesse very shortly. Let's get some stuff out of the way, guys. No longer on PayPal, for those who are wondering. Not using that, so many issues, but I'm up on Cash App. And if anyone can help support this show and keep it going, it does mean a lot. Go to Cash App, and it's George the Iceman on Cash App, guys, and everything goes a long way, guys, so much appreciated. No more on PayPal, only Cash App. Lisa D, if I'm pronouncing her name right, Lisa D has sent a little something my way on Cash App. Blessings and thank you to Miss Lisa D, one of the only ones actually showing some love and support. So Lisa D, thank you so much. Love and blessings. Give her a thank you in the comments below. She's keeping it good, keeping it real. And I'm not going to lie, I am debating to take the show off YouTube for a little while. I will be discussing it further with Jesse and others, but we might try March 1st exclusively on Patreon. YouTube seems to be hurting me in so many ways, not allowing me to, do donations and PayPal. And it's a lot of effort and energy to produce these shows here. So we might be just doing a 2-hour broadcast show and Q&A on Patreon starting March 1st. So stay tuned for more details on that. But it looks like, unfortunately, that's the direction I'm going to have to go with this show. I want to thank you all for being here. It is a pleasure and honor. And without further ado, guys, please welcome my co-host, Ms. Jessie Zaboter. Jessie, how are you?
Hey, doing well.
All right. Lisa D, doing a great thing, sending something my way. There's some amazing people here, and I got to give her a shout out and thank you for supporting, keeping the show on YouTube for a few more weeks. But we'll be able to see this content and a whole lot more coming up March 1st on Patreon. So I'm excited for that, guys. All right, let's get into it, Jesse. Underground cities,
right?
Underground tunnels. They have them in the past, thousands of years old. They found new ones. I'm going to talk about experiencing an underground city with footage. So we're going to get into it. It's going to be quite good. So we hope everyone fastens their seatbelt. All right, guys, without further ado, my guest this evening that we all love and cherish and can't wait to hear because, he's always got something to say about something. And I don't know if I'm talking about a bottle of glass spring water, I could tell you he probably did some research on that spring water. He could tell you the well was Aramaic and the water went all the way to the Red Sea in 3,000 years. He just knows. And I love it about him. Please welcome Mr. Gary Wayne. Gary, welcome back.
Well, thank you for inviting me back. And I do a lot of times talk a lot about nothing. So that's an expert I might be the best at. So
but we love everything you have to say. And you always throw some great context to it. And, you research so well. And it's always a privilege and honor to have you and Jesse and the amazing viewers on the show, guys. Let's get into it. Underground tunnels and cities. We begin with the past. Very interesting thing. Doing research about something in Turkey. And I'm going to play this quick video. And most of the videos are coming from the TikTok, Instagram, YouTube form, because that's how the younger generation or another generation of people are getting their information. They're fascinated with these topics and they want to know more about it. So we're looking at it and I'm saying, hey, let's do this or let's do that. This is what they want to hear about. So I'm going to play a video and we'll get your feedback on it. So guys, turn up your volume and we're going to play it right now.
1963, a man in Turkey noticed his chickens were disappearing through a small crack in his basement. He knocked down the wall to find them, but instead he found a dark tunnel. He followed it down and down, 18 stories underground. He had stumbled upon a massive hidden city that had been sleeping right under his feet for centuries. This is Kuyu, a subterranean marvel carved into solid volcanic rock. At 85 meters deep, it could house 20,000 people for months without them ever seeing the sun. It wasn't just a cave, it was a fully functional city. Ventilation shafts, water wells, churches, stables, and kitchens designed to disperse smoke without alerting anyone outside. To stay safe, they used massive circular stone doors weighing half a ton that could only be opened from the inside.
There you go, guys. So this underground city in Turkey was able to house almost 20,000 people, kitchens, churches, livestock. They had ways of cooking for the smoke to go up. They found a way of ventilation. I did a lot of research on this specific underground city. Incredible. By the way, there's another one a few miles away where a tunnel was made connecting them. Again, this is just Turkey, but there's many others that we'll get into. We'll begin with this one. Jesse, what are your thoughts on the video you just saw? And what did you think of what he had to say about it? Do you believe that there's others like this? And have you heard about this one in Turkey?
I have heard of this, and I think it's absolutely phenomenal. It can be hard for us to grasp that something so massive and so extensive, an entire civilization is happening right under our feet. But then the question is, how many? We know it's not just in Turkey. I believe that, all over the world, you have underground cities at different levels and layers. And I don't believe that that's even close to the biggest ones that they have. But 20,000 people is a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot of people. And that's what they said they had it. And I was like, okay. But we'll get a little bit more into it. First, Gary, let's get your first take on it. You saw the video. Did you know about this? Did you know about the other city that's a few miles away from it, the connecting tunnel? What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I am somewhat familiar with it. And there is another place, I don't know if it's the same one you're talking about, but Kaya Makli. But there's a few, they're discovering more sites there all of the time. And the age of this city is uncertain. They would like to make it earlier, but as opposed to later. But the more they do that, the more the capability to do this seems to be less and less. And it's designed to survive some sort of catastrophe or attack or both. And maybe it was used for both over the years. And noting those closures for defense or stopping something from getting in. So there is and Göbekli Tepe is closely associated with Derinkuyu as well. So there's a religious component here that may tie into some of this information that you're probably going to be revealing. But in Zoroastrianism and with Zarathustra, receiving information from Ahura Mazda, they talk about an ice age or a very cold period for about 3 years that lines up with the Younger Dryas and that sort of period of time, where there was 3 years of either an ice age or just got really, really colder. And it talks in that account of Ahura Mazda advising and somehow helping or building, it's kind of unclear to me, to go build an underground city. Now, if that is in one location of the world, it's in other locations of the world. And so we want to be open to the fact that these things seem to predate our capability of doing. And I question our ability to do it as well today as what they're doing right now, and doing it in a relatively sort of short period of time. 20,000 people, though, is an interesting number. And it also correlates exactly with the number of people that could have lived in Petra and underground. Mm-hmm. And that's thought to be an antediluvian city as well.
I found it interesting, guys, in regards to doing some research on that, the hypotheses of how it was built. Of course, you're not going to get the full information on it. Some are saying that it was initiated by the Hittites around 1200 BCE. They said it was a place for earlier Christians to escape persecution and invasion. And when they came into the towns, these people would disappear. They'd be underground. They'd be living there. That's what they're saying this was created for. But we could go a little bit deeper into that. So I'd like to get your thoughts first, Jesse, on what you heard on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think overall it is very interesting, and I think that these cities have been used generationally. As you were pointing out, I think that very well there could be a connection. Did they have a rotational system based on season or based on, the altars, the deities that they were worshiping, where, they were rotating through different areas? I believe that that's very possible. I don't know with the time frame, how that could have worked, but I think that it makes sense that they were, doing a seasonal migration and rotation based on areas and rituals and, trying to get the best harvest in different areas that they could, in the areas where they were, structured. But then also I think that the trade, that would be something that would still impact, even though they weren't developing necessarily trade above ground. I think that there became a huge enterprise of trading for goods through these underground cities.
Good point. Using for trading and maybe protecting themselves and so forth. It's a good concept.
Yeah.
The key is, us trying to, because there isn't a real answer to the main reason why they would have built this. We could theorize on it and wonder, what Gary said. Was it a cold weather storm coming? Were they hiding for something? Is there something else? Gary, I'm going to pass you the question. Could it be something militarily? Is there another, maybe not weather, an invasion of some sort? Don't know. Just putting that out there. What are your thoughts?
Well, certainly it would evolve into a defensive location as well, but primarily you're looking to survive something that you can't survive being on the surface. Now, you could say that that would be an attack, but that would suggest more significant type of weapons. I think it's a mistake to stop at the Hittites. Hittites were sort of intermeshed with Indo-Aryans or giants, and even their language becomes overwhelmed with Proto-Indo-European or Proto-Indo-Aryan, whichever way you want to call that. And the Phrygian cult was also associated with the Hittites. And this seems to be more Phrygian than Hittite, and older. And Phrygians would be the same religious cults that show up in other civilizations shortly after the flood and extend back to before the flood. So the best known ones that we have are through the Greeks and the Etruscans. So the Greeks would be, the Proto-Greeks are the Scythians, and the Proto-Latins are the Etruscans. These are Indo-Aryans. These are giant aboriginals that people from Babel later, after 100 years after the flood with the dispersion at Babel, they're going to migrate with. So when we look at the Etruscan aspect and we look at the Greek aspect as also inheriting this ancient religion, understand that this is the same religion as Zoroastrianism. This would be, as you get the two main versions, you get the Indo-Aryans that settled into the Indus Valley for the Sanskrit version, and those that settled into Persia for the Avesta version. And this is the same splinter group with the Phrygian that's more in the east from those other locations. So it all seems to be that same religion. So now you would expect to see similar types of worship sites and things to do rituals in for things that would be associated with the same sort of wheel culture and of the cycles and of the seasons and as of astrological alignments and equinoxes and everything else, which are also associated throughout all of these areas. And Phrygian has a large sort of MO of doing a lot of things sort of underground and with prophets as well.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting. Again, these people could live in this location for a very long period of time. They figured it out. this technology just, let's touch on technology for a moment. Gary, I just find it hard to believe. And it could be as simple as a pick and an axe. I mean, it's that simple. Or an axe and a hammer. But I can't fathom how many years it would have took and tens of thousands of people to dig. This thing went between 18 and 24 stories.
Yep.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to think about a building that's 18 to 24 stories high, and then reverse that underground. So I have to ask, is it as simple as that? Somebody with an axe and a pick and a hammer went down? Was there some other technology that they knew about? What was information? I'm perplexed with this, and I'm just curious about the question. Jesse,
Yeah.
I'll ask you first and then throw it to Gary.
Well, I've got a couple different theories, but I'm going to put my question out there too, because I want to ask Gary's thoughts on this, how involved he thought or thinks giants may have been in the building of the underground. However, I guess my first thoughts would be, not so much advanced technology as we think about it. I don't think that there was special equipment that they had. I think it was much more, what we would consider not of this world. I highly believe music was something that they used a lot. I believe, with their different music theories, and you get the study of the circle of fifths and, the architecture. And I believe they were masters at frequency, sound, and light, and being able to use those natural elements, through song, through movement, through motion, through flow and feng shui. The way that they presented things allowed for energy to naturally move. And, even though there's an elemental aspect, there still also was a spiritual aspect. Did they bring into that their deities? You hear stories of Solomon using, the angels, the fallen angels, the 72 to, possibly have helped him build things. You get those verses, of Moses and the parting of the Red Sea, interpretations of that, where, they believe in the system that's, a power verse, that you've got the armies of heaven that are doing stuff, moving those waters. So was there a spiritual, otherworldly aspect to it? I think that's possible.
All right, Gary, we passed you the question. Was it as simple as a pick and an axe, or was there something else to how they built this 18 to 24 story underground city thousands of years ago?
Yeah, you're going to have, if it's a pick and an axe, even a technology that they say wasn't available when these were built. You have to have at least iron to be able to pick away at this stuff. And then how do you make the cuts of the stones? And it's just beyond what they have. And they certainly weren't chiseling with other rocks, because then you have to have harder rocks than the rocks that you're digging into. But how do you know what all the different types of rock configurations might be underneath, and how do you know there's that much rock there to dig it out? And then you're going to need water sources, and then you need to be able to design and engineer ventilation systems. Then you have to be able to understand weight and structure. I mean, we're talking about technologies on a massive level that is not properly explained. So they either had help, or these are even older. And I suspect they're even older. I think they're definitely antediluvian, where you would have had an advancement of technology that would have made that capable of doing. And so when you look at these locations, are they actually made for giants? Probably not. They're not really big enough for giants, right? You need a little bit more space for the size of these giants. So who are these locations to be built for? Particularly if the humans didn't have them. I mean, it's an endless list of logical questions that secular history doesn't provide any answers to, and we get very, very few answers out of the religious aspects. And if you're doing it with low technology, then you're going to have a record of having something over hundreds of years to
Yes.
build. I
Mhm.
mean, it just doesn't get lost on the imprint of society. It would come down through at least the oral traditions, which we typically don't have. So then you're sort of left up to this sort of MO of the pattern of when were these types of buildings created and by who? And it usually comes back down to a combination of gods and a combination of the technology of the gods for humans and for the giants to build. It's a bit of a combination there.
All right, Gary, you said something that piqued my interest here. Gods. Now, are you talking about entities spiritually or three-dimensional? Let's just touch on that briefly. Where do you think, if this knowledge or information or help came from these ancient gods, is this another type of human being? Is this some type of reptilian? Is this a spirit form? Please touch on that. I find that fascinating.
You know, typically, if you're going to understand gods, it's a preternatural type of being. And so it's a spirit being that can take a physical form and specifically would reside mostly in a spiritual realm. But when they want to interact physically in the physical world, then they're going to take that sort of physical form. So this may be palaces for those gods to be in, and for people to come and worship or to be served. Could be something as simple as that. I don't think it's has to do with alien technology, but it's certainly, if you're building something to please the gods, you may want to get closer to the gods. And they typically did two things. One is they went on high to worship gods, but it's not an unusual thought that they understood the location of the gods to be in the earth. So they may have been trying to get closer to their gods below the earth, just as above the earth. So that part kind of comes into the equation as well. But we sort of have to frame the reference point is that these things are sized for more human-like figures than giant figures. And that's where it becomes, so what's this designed to do?
Yeah. And I love that you brought out, kind of that concept. Is it, I guess you were talking about kind of that building, they're just built. The question is, could they have just been trying to continue to get higher and higher to their gods? Is there a possibility that, rather than us seeing it as them building down and creating these, elaborate structures with all of these, capabilities, like the ventilation, all of that, is it possible that they just kept building on top of, and that's what we're seeing today and experiencing today, is generations of them continuing to build up, building over other cities.
Yeah, and that does make a lot of sense for a lot of locations where we have current religious sites on today. The difficulty is these, if you're just bringing in the blocks to build in there, that's one thing. But if you're actually digging into the rock, then I mean, how do you dig up, and how did we get underneath to dig up? So I think, again, when we have to sort of look at the different kinds of the structures, ones that maybe just are done in easier ground where you're going to bring in the stoneworks to do. But again, that's going to take a lot of technology. So this is building down towards the gods, if that's what they're trying to do, versus up. But if it's a holy site, it's a holy site.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So whichever way you're building in that direction, it's still for the same sort of purposes.
Guys, let's fast forward. This was ancient, old civilizations. They are in other parts. They found them in Jordan. They found them in Egypt and other parts of the old world. But something now is striking a nerve with the TikTok population, that generation. And these videos are going viral. What videos are you talking about, George? Well, this is the topic of conversation today. This video has gone viral. A lot of people are talking about it. And then I actually went out to find the person they were talking about. So I have a couple of things to share. I'm going to play this video first. It's important that everyone pay close attention to what they say, and then we'll get into it and add a little bit more context to it. Here it is.
Toronto's Path Network.
A former Bush administration official has come forward with a claim that's difficult to ignore. According to the New York Post, Catherine Austin Fitts says the U.S. government has secretly constructed a $21 trillion underground city. She alleges that this was funded through nearly 2 decades of unaccounted-for federal spending, money that vanished from the ledgers of the Department of Defense and the Department of Housing and Urban Development between 1998 and 2015. Fitts describes a network of over 170 underground and underwater facilities, not shelters, cities, built to house the powerful in the event of a near-extinction event. She says they're connected by high-speed transit systems, hidden beneath the surface of the United States, powered by advanced energy technologies the public has never been allowed to see. No vote, no announcement, no media coverage, just decades of quiet construction, shielded from public knowledge. If what she's saying is true, then these places already exist. The entrances are in place. The infrastructure is operational, and they aren't meant for everyone. The public was never informed. No explanation has been given. No officials have stepped forward to confirm or deny any part of it. So we have to ask the obvious questions. What do they know? What are they hiding? And what happens to the rest of us when the doors close?
All right, guys. There you have it. Ms. Fitts, who worked for the Bush administration that talked about this in an interview, got into it. Talked about the amount of money, talked about actual bases, not only underground cities. Mind you, she referred to oceans underwater. They built cities under the water. And I said, sometimes on social media, this could be hearsay. Maybe they heard it. I tried to find it. I found an interview. I actually found an interview where she talks about it. I'm going to play this, and then I'm going to give you guys a chance to answer and give me your feedback. Here's her actually saying it. Check it out.
The underground base and city infrastructure and transportation system that's been built. And
I'm sorry?
Yes. So we have built an extraordinary number of underground bases and supposedly transportation systems. Some of these are documented as part of the national security infrastructure. I think there are many more.
In the United States?
In the United States, on all over the world. From 2021 to 2023, I took one of the smartest subscribers in the Slayer Report network, and he and I spent 2 years collecting all the data and all the allegations on underground bases. We systematically went through and tried to estimate our guess, this is totally a guess, of how many underground bases, both underground in the United States, but also underground under the ocean around the United States. And our estimate was 170, with a transportation network connecting them.
And what would be the purpose?
If you thought you were going to get a near extinction event,
there's going to be a near extinction event. That's the answer she gave. 170 under the city, under the water. They have connecting tunnels to some of them. We know about this. We know about Los Angeles. We know about Las Vegas. That's now coming video footage, and it's being seen. It's not a secret. It's out there now. So it was a conspiracy a while ago. I remember talking about this. People are like, oh, that's just insane. Well, here it is. Jesse, I'll let you answer first. Thoughts on what you have to say?
I think, there's a couple big things to bring out in that. One is, the accounting. I think that should be, first and foremost, that, she brings out that is our money being used, for these elite to build their underground secret, whatever they are, the bases, their train lines, their, transportation modes, their secret cities. And with that, they've been taking money that's ours, that's what's proposed, in order to uh, create places where they can survive, they can be well off, while the rest of us go through whatever the horrific events may be. And could some of those be manufactured? Could those be things that, they plan to cause harm or destruction? That's the dark side of what these elite do. Is, the dark magic they engage in is meant for destruction, chaos, and harm. So I think it's plausible. Probably more than plausible. I think, there's definitely, I believe, enough evidence out there, people coming forward with testimony, people coming forward with experiences to say that there is underground things. And I think they have gone to the extent of even building, under the water. And um, I think that there's ways that we can see that the evidence of those things.
All right, Gary, you saw the video. You heard what she had to say. She admitted it. This is what she found. Now, she estimated, it wasn't certain, but it was around 170 underground cities.
Wow.
Thoughts on what you heard?
Well, I think it would take more money than 21 trillion, but
Yeah.
even on, so
I'm with you on that, Gary.
so maybe there's not that many, or maybe they're not as
Big.
large as what we might be imagining.
Mhm.
So there's a limited amount of assets that you could do to do that. I'm not arguing the 21 trillion. I'm just saying, not sure how many that might build. That was the first thing I thought of. But we should not be surprised, though, that for two reasons. One, on the average sort of everyday level, is if you're in the US and you have a great economy and you think that there could be nuclear war or something like that, you would build shelters, which we saw starting in the 50s and the 60s. And then you would say, okay, but does that really get us to where we want to go for how long? And so you would continually do more of that and do it with more technology, which is going to take more money. So this is in planning to survive, even though it might be like an extinction event. It's for a limited period of time that you would have to bridge to get through. So it becomes very much like Durian Q, as we were talking about earlier, in that sort of understanding. If it was used for war, notice they had those wheels that would be able to close from the inside, and they had ventilation and everything else that would go in there. So if they are looking at that extinction type of event, would it be possible that through either polytheist prophecy as a religiously organized type of group that would be doing this, whether it's monotheist or polytheist, do they have end time prophecies for wars of destruction? Well, yes, they do, just as we had them in the past. So the best one that I would lean on, because from the West, whether you're Gnostic or whether or not you are Christian, people know about Revelation 6 in the seal judgments. And at the end in 6:15 to about 18, as I recall, they think it's the wrath of the Lamb. And there's 25% destruction coming. This is like feeling like an extinction kind of event. And that all the people of the earth think it's the wrath of the Lamb, and all of the rich people and everybody else that is permitted are running into caves, as it's described,
Mhm.
for protection from the wrath of the Lamb, which is destruction by fire, 100%, as it actually would be if it was the actual wrath of the Lamb. This is brought on by those who rule the world. The other extinction event that you might want to look at would be, again, similar to the Ice Age and or an asteroid coming in that might cause a temporary thing that they know about. This type of thing that they're projecting through, their search into space or whatever, in terms of that they kind of have an idea when this is going to play out. So those would be the two things that you would be trying to do. I would lean closer to the first one, that they know this is, as we get closer into the end time, and everybody's expecting it. Doesn't matter whether it's the age of Lord Maitreya and the externalization of the hierarchy, in the age of Aquarius, where there's destruction by fire. They think we're there. Or if you think, like most Christians do who understand prophecy, we just might be in the fig tree generation, you would be preparing for that. So yes, the description of running into those caves in Revelation 6 fits perfectly.
Very good. Now, guys, I'll say this. I've had my share of living underground. For those who weren't aware, I was born in Toronto, and Toronto has one of the largest underground cities in the world. And maybe we take it for granted living in Toronto, but I can tell you, I have gone underground many levels. There's restaurants, there's shopping, groceries, clothing. There is arts. There is lounges, cafes. I mean, it's absolutely incredible and unbelievable that I witnessed it. And it's a very long period, or a long stretch. I think it's like 30 miles, kilometers, something like that. But I found a quick video that'll kind of maybe give you guys a little update on it, and give you a little bit more information on it. I'm going to play it, and then we'll touch on this actual city underground in Toronto that I participated and went to and experienced things and was there. So give it a minute and take a look at this.
Toronto's PATH network is the world's largest underground pedestrian walkway, spanning more than 33 kilometers. It consists of 4 million square feet and approximately 1,200 retail units where you can find restaurants, shops, bakeries, grocery stores, and basically any retail service that you would find on the street. From this series of pathways, you can walk below the city streets from Toronto's waterfront, through the financial district, the entertainment district, and all the way up to City Hall and Yonge and Dundas Square. Annual revenues from the path exceeds $1.7 billion, and hundreds of thousands of citizens, commuters, and travelers navigate its corridors each day. Linking this underground system are more than 75 buildings, including commercial, residential, hotels, and venues. But this convenience was originally for the benefit of the T. Eaton Company and its shoppers. The company built the very first tunnel back in 1900 to connect two of its stores near Yonge and Queen Street East. Over the next 17 years, 4 more tunnels would be built in downtown.
So there you go, guys. It's a very long pathway. It's deep. One main section is on the corner of Dundas and Yonge. Yonge and Dundas is a major corner. It's the popular area everyone goes to. Shopping, supermarkets, stores underneath. There's so much going on. There's the subway system, and it's very It's the Times Square of Canada, and it's downtown Toronto. You don't have to feel the cold technically in certain parts of the city. Now, I've asked this question. Why is it that they've got such an elaborate underground city for people in Toronto? I was told it was because of the very cold temperatures, which is a fact. I mean, right now today, I talked about this backstage, it was minus 25 degrees. With the wind chill, it will feel like minus 35, minus 40. Last week, they said it was colder than Antarctica for one day. That's astronomical cold, not to mention the unbelievable snow that Canada gets. And they found a way to build an underground city, and it's pretty incredible. So on that note, just let me get your take if you know any other cities in America with such an elaborate underground city for people, regular people, to go to.
I think there's a lot. I wouldn't say I would necessarily that I've been to the ones that are, made for people like that one that you just showed. But I think that, are there other places that are like that? Or is there more of a trend where you're seeing more and more of that? I think there is. Some places now where you get like 3-4 stories down, especially with like government buildings, universities, libraries, schools. Those tend to be kind of the major buildings that now are kind of, building down and interconnecting. You also get your hospitals and a lot of your support services that will interconnect to the schools and areas and the government buildings, the military, your casinos even. You're getting a lot of interconnection with those in your airports. So I think that that's been, things have definitely been moving more in that direction to build down and connect together.
Gary, again, I ask you the question, have you heard of another city where these many pedestrians and public can go to do their groceries, to get their food, to get to work, and to stay out of the cold weathers? Or maybe there's something else to it. Give me your thoughts.
Yeah, that's a grand scale in Toronto. I mean, Winnipeg has a similar with one, but a lot smaller, down around Portage and Maine and throughout those areas. I would say there's not as many in Canada that at least we're aware of that would be used for that public sort of access. And then, of course, if you've got public access that's using that much, what else do we not have access that they built at the same time that we're not aware of?
Very good.
I think that's more of it,
Yes.
where we don't have access.
And
I think
so
that's
a lot of the northern cities will have small pieces in the downtown area. But again, I asked the same question, what's in behind those walls? And we also understand from how the Masons set up the town squares, they always built underground. So there seems to be an MO of they want to do this. And how do you do it in a way that isn't as suspicious? Tough to get that word out tonight for some reason, so that people aren't looking beyond. Well, you give them something to take their attention away. The city, though, that comes to mind then, and I can't prove any of this, I only you hear things, and is what's underneath Denver, the Denver airport.
Yeah, you got Denver. Rochester's another huge one.
However, these underground cities, especially the one in Denver, are we accessible to that underground city? Is it accessible to regular people or not?
You get an underground life, but I wouldn't even say that, that's not open to the general public. You're going to have, information for underground things that is passed word of mouth, or, they show up at one location and they're given where the true underground is, so not really. You might get a little in the Rochester area. You get a lot of the gangs, the punks, the goth people that have access to that underground. But, again, it's pretty selective to who can get down there.
My biggest stumbling block for long-term survival is food.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you probably find a place to build these places to have access to water, but how do you grow the food? What does it take to do that? And how do you store the food? And how much food do you need for X amount of people for whatever period that you're extrapolating? That's the logistical part. I mean, surviving initial blasts is one thing.
Now, wait a minute, Gary. I mean, you're asking a question you already know the answer to. Now, come on now.
I was going to say, the elite have already taken care of it. That's what all the prior wars were for.
Yes, I thought you were already aware that Mr. Bill Gates, a humanitarian to society, has put so much time and effort to create a bioengineered type of food. He's lab-grown meat, technically.
Insects. There's lots of insects.
Dairy.
And
come on now.
Food.
but doing it on scale underground is a whole different ballgame.
I think
they already have it down
Gary.
there.
I think
they've abandoned mass amounts of.
I think it's already done, brother.
Well, the other option is a lot of the people that they bring in might be the food.
This is true. Yeah.
Let's save that for the after show. That's
keep that in mind. Don't live in the underground city if you're not willing to, donate your body.
Yeah, come with us. You look delicious.
I think this was a great segue to the after show, where I'm going to ask everyone to join us on Patreon. The link is in the description. We're going to get into a Q&A. And the topic of conversation is definitely going to be tunnels, underground cities. However, let's touch a little bit more on the nefarious aspects of it. We haven't even gotten into, possibly drug trafficking. We've heard stories about that. We've heard of other types of organized crime and other things. So we're going to get into that and a whole lot more with the Q&A aspect, the after show on Patreon. The link is in the description. That's coming up next. On that note, guys, I want to thank you for being here. What an amazing show. We'll begin with you, Jesse, how you could share your information so everyone could support you and what you do.
Yeah, definitely. You can find me on my website, kingdomlivingwithjesse.com. On there, you'll find my courses, my books, my workshops, and the coachings that I do on the structures of the buildings and the unveiling of the system. You also can find me on patreon.com.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Gary, how can these wonderful people support you, follow you, and get to know more about the writings of one Gary Wayne?
Yeah, the best way to support me is to purchase my books. The easiest way to purchase my books is go to my website, the Genesis6conspiracy.com. That's Genesis 6, the number 6conspiracy.com. I now have 5 buy pages up there. So, and that is because I have pre-order up for the Primo Conspiracy that will be officially released and available on print April 1st, and you can pre-order there. You can also go to Amazon, Barnes & Noble. Barnes & Noble has placed an order already for putting it on shelves, which is going to give it some visibility on the site. I just want to read a little bit here so people know what it's all about. And then I'll just cover off what the new buy pages look like so people don't get confused. So this is the write-up that we have up there. It's what if the final war isn't fought with weapons but with super AI? Primo, Latin to crush, suppress, and dominate. And so it's the technology that we call the Primo wall. And Primo is also sort of reflects the end time empire that crushes and dominates and suppresses the Seventh Empire. In a world teetering on the edge, the Primo Conspiracy reveals a chilling alliance. A global AI surveillance system joins forces with Babylon, the ancient spirit of secret societies and Nephilim bloodlines, both awakened and empowered by super artificial intelligence. Their union threatens to seize worldwide control. As governments fall and truth is threatened under this repressive regime, a remnant rises to resist. Beck, a young woman with prophetic dreams since childhood, Sam, an Oxford archaeological professor, and Logan, a former military intelligence operative, join forces with the Vatican Cardinal. In a secret archaeological dig, they find 7 scrolls holding the keys to Revelation 6. Guided by the flame, they race to release the seals before Elias Velek, the brilliant but evil creator of the Primo Wall and leader of the Black Root Order, can use the global AI system to resurrect Babylon, prepare the way for the Antichrist, and eliminate the opposition. From the ruins of Damascus to the vaults beneath Jerusalem, this prophetic thriller weaves theology, espionage, persecution, and spiritual warfare in a gripping story of the end times. Ancient scrolls stir, revealing truths about the coming apocalypse. Seals break, horses and riders are loosed, and the voice of the flame and mercy calls one final time. And all of humanity must choose who to follow. The Primo Conspiracy is more than a novel. It is a chilling warning. It is a clarion call. It's the beginning of the end. And that'll be the first, probably in a sequel, because we've already started the second one. So,
wow. Very interesting book. And I have also your links underneath in the description. Guys, again, thank you all for joining and watching. And if you could support me on the show, please donate on Cash App. There's a name in the chat and also in the description. No more PayPal, only Cash App. Anything you could do goes a long way to help keep the show on for the next few weeks. I'm thinking maybe we're just going to go Patreon next month. We'll see how that goes. Guys, I want to thank you all for being here on behalf of Jesse, Gary, and myself. We thank you all for watching. Hope you have a blessed night. Thank you, and we'll see you in the after show. Coming up next. Good night, everyone.